At this point in the barbecue season, everything fun is fully involved. And as we approach the 4th of July, plenty of people are traveling across the Carolinas and the South. That means they're eating too. And if you're traveling and you're eating and you want to have a good culinary tour guide, we've got one, and one who knows the favorite flavors of the Carolinas as well as the inner workings of all those food services. Yes, today we have that expert. Andre James is a food writer from Southport in way down east North Carolina. He's turned experience in the food industry into a career chronicling the food and beverage scene all across the South. You've seen his work in Eater Carolinas, Charleston Post and Courier, Charlotte Observer, more recently the Chattanooga Free Times Press, and my personal favorite, the food section. He's been a judge for the Frank Beard Awards, and he's joining us on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Mr. James, welcome to the show.
How you doing, man? Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you here as well. So before we get too deep into this, let me ask you, which is harder, judging for those Beard Awards or judging for the people of Charleston, Charlotte, and Chattanooga?
Definitely the Beard Awards, man. There's a lot on the lines.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've got to start over here because I've screwed a couple things up twice. So let me just run through it all again because it's the James Beard Awards, not that guy from CZ Top. Sorry, Andrew. We're going to take it from the top. Andre, what a way to start. Hot dog, roll tide. Here we go. At this point in the barbecue season, all the fun is fully involved. And as we approach the 4th of July, plenty of people are traveling across the Carolinas and the South. That means they're eating too. And if you're traveling and you're eating and you want to have a good culinary tour guide, we've got one. And we've got one who knows the favorite flavors of the Carolinas and the inner workings of all those food services. Again, today we have that expert. It's Andre James. He's a food writer from Southport. That's in way down east North Carolina. He's turned experience in the food industry into a career chronicling the food and beverage scene all across the South. You've probably seen his work in Eater Carolinas, Charleston Post and Courier, the Chattanooga Free Times Press, and again, my personal favorite, the food section. Andre's been a judge on the James Beard Awards, and he's joining us on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Andre, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. I don't do too many interviews, so this is nice.
Yeah, definitely excited to talk to you. Before we get too deep into things, I want to ask you, which is harder, judging for the James Beard Awards or judging for all those people that I mentioned in Charleston and Chattanooga and all around the country?
Definitely the James Beard Awards, man. It's a lot on the line. That award, even getting a nomination, can make or break, a restaurant, and it can, get you cookbook deals and other restaurants and, different opportunities. So definitely the James Beard Awards is definitely high stakes, man.
High stakes and a little bit of pressure. And I can't wait to talk to you about some of your favorite barbecue spots, other places you've judged, and some of your latest food lists from around the South, especially barbecue. And I suspect we may have the story behind some of that barbecue at our website, lowslowbbqshow.com. That's home for all our pitmaster interviews. It is perfect listening for your summer holiday weekend. You can also find the blog at lowslowbbqshow.com. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. You'll get the latest roundup of Carolina barbecue news, food truck stops, and events every Tuesday morning. And again, don't be surprised if you see a link to some of the great content produced by our guest today, Andre James. And some of his most recent work to hit the streets comes from the Chattanooga Times Free Press, where he makes some pretty bold top 10 claims, but maybe even bolder, Andre, a Mount Rushmore of the 4 essential barbecue styles. So let's have it. What is your Mount Rushmore barbecue styles? How did you get there, and which one's the best?
Well, I love a good Mount Rushmore list. I have a Mount Rushmore list of sandwiches and soups and everything else. So, I was approached. I had left Chattanooga to move back down my way in coastal Carolinas. So I was approached by Chatter Magazine to do their big barbecue issue.
Yeah.
So one of the things we wanted to do was just do something affirmative and do something a matter of fact. So I was like, let's do a Mount Rushmore barbecue styles. There's so many styles out there. There's a gazillion styles out there. So I was just like, let's just do something to get people talking and, to get everything stirred up. So in my opinion, if you have read the Chatter Magazine, it doesn't get my hometown in Southport, it doesn't get more East Coast, Eastern, as far as the mainland of North Carolina goes,
right,
than Southport, North Carolina. So much so that people drive off of the bulkhead into the ocean in Southport, North Carolina, all the time.
Right into the Cape Fear River there.
Yep. Where the ocean, the Cape Fear River and the coastal waterway and all that link up, Atlantic Ocean. So definitely Eastern North Carolina is number one. If you remember Anthony Bourdain, who was a huge influence on me becoming a food writer, he called Eastern North Carolina the cradle of barbecue. And I'm not going to dispute anybody who calls it that, So definitely Eastern North Carolina, whole hog, vinegar based. I actually have on a shirt right now. This is from Jackson's Big Oak Barbecue.
Okay.
One of the ones in Wilmington that I grew up going to, that my dad took me to when I was growing up in Wilmington. So Eastern North Carolina, whole hog. Then you have Kansas City. Kansas City is known for the burnt ends. They pretty much invented the burnt ends at Arthur Bryant's. He was giving them away as scraps because they come from the brisket of the cow.
Right,
so he
right.
was giving away as scraps. Yep, he was giving away as scraps, and then they became a thing, and now everybody's doing burnt ends. Then you got Gates Barbecue, they do their thing. And then when you think of barbecue sauces like KC Masterpiece, you think of those barbecue sauces.
Sure.
And everybody knows like that sweet, sticky sludge that is, Kansas City barbecue sauce, which, you can almost put on anything.
Yeah, sludge. It ain't for everybody, especially if you're from the Carolinas.
No, definitely not. That's number two. So Eastern North Carolina, Kansas City, Central Texas.
Okay.
If on there. Texas is a big state, as we all know. And there's different regions that do different things in Texas, but Central Texas is where like Austin, Texas, where brisket reigns supreme. Other places you got the sauces like hot guts, and you got they even do goat and stuff in certain parts of Southern Texas and stuff. But Central Texas is where you think, when you close your eyes and think of Texas barbecue, you think of the brisket. That's kind of the area that comes from. So that had to be one. And I like brisket, but I got New York lineage. My dad's from the Bronx, hence that. Yeah. So I'm more. If you gave me a choice to get a good brisket or good pastrami, I'm going to pastrami every time. But I do love brisket though.
Sure.
I do love brisket. And then the fourth one was Memphis style barbecue, which is you think of like Charlie Virgo's Rendezvous, and Cozy Corner. You think of the ribs, dry rub, spare ribs, dry rub baby back ribs. You think of the ribs. So those are the four. Eastern North Carolina style, Memphis style, Kansas City, and Central Texas. That's my Mount Rushmore of barbecue styles. And then everything trickles off of that. You got right here, I'm in Myrtle Beach right now. So you got Rodney Scott, his family's place is hour from here. You got the PD region of North Carolina, of South Carolina. And, they do their thing, but those are the four ones that like everything trickles off of. I
got you. Now, you were specifically writing for a publication there in Chattanooga, and you gave a top 10 list. I won't get you to break down the whole top 10 list, but maybe tell me, where does the Chattanooga barbecue fit into that big four, or does it have its own style? What kind of differentiators does it have?
Well, this one, I can't remember the guy's name, but I was interviewing him one time, and he called Chattanooga barbecue transplant barbecue.
Okay.
Chattanooga has a very robust. It's a railroad town. It's historically speaking, it's centrally located. So I thought how many states touch Tennessee? Like 9 states touch Tennessee or something crazy like that.
Right.
So it's centrally located. So when that happens, you get all these different people coming from different places, bringing their own thing. So Chattanooga, I can't really say it's a specific style. And I feel like they're in the shadows of Memphis a little bit, even though it's way on the other side of the state, it's on the east side of the state. Memphis is way out west. it's still kind of in the shadows of Memphis. When you think Tennessee barbecue, you don't even think of Nashville. You think of Memphis.
Right.
So Chattanooga's kind of doing their own thing. But what I see spread out mostly, if I just got to say what's at every Chattanooga restaurant, probably like pork shoulder, some barbecue sauce. It's kind of baseline. It's kind of streamlined, but it's good. You know, barbecue at its essence is supposed to be it's supposed to be this, almost primitive. You know, you're cooking meat over open fire,
right,
or indirect fire. So it's just at its best, it's simple. You know, people try to blow out of proportion now sometimes, and just different techniques and stuff like that. But Chattanooga has it's solid barbecue in Chattanooga. It's solid barbecue.
So
I think
when you go down your top 10 list, and again, you've shared that there, and I'll get a link from you, and we'll link it in the podcast notes there so folks can check it out. Which one of those Chattanooga places would a Carolina barbecue fan love the most? And whether it's an Eastern or a Western or a South Carolina guy?
I feel like for the that's tough. There's a lot of barbecue in Chattanooga.
Right.
I feel like Chat Smokehouse has that vibe. Have some. It's right down. It's on MLK, which is East 9th Street back in the day before they changed it to MLK. It's right there at MLK. James Massengill, he's been doing barbecue for a long time. Even before he opened up Chat Smokehouse, he was doing that family reunions and get-togethers, and he's doing the barbecue for people's funerals and all types of stuff. So, and they got the smokers right out back. They got the smokers. My first week in Chattanooga, he took me on a tour of his, this little shed in the back.
Okay.
And in Tennessee, you can cook out back and kind of do that kind of. North Carolina, a little more regulated. Tennessee, you can cook on the sidewalk. You have a grill on the sidewalk, which was crazy for me to see coming from North Carolina, where everything's a little more regulated. But I think Chat Smokehouse encompasses, like, okay, they got good ribs. I haven't found any whole hog in Chattanooga. But as far as just good, solid barbecue, I feel like definitely Chat Smokehouse right there on MLK. But as far as my favorite place for barbecue, which was the number one on my list, was Little Coyote.
Okay, what sets them apart from all those other guys?
It's just Chattanooga's culturally speaking, Chattanooga's very progressive.
Okay.
And I feel like Little Coyote is leaning into the future. It's more of a Texas style. They Chef Eric Neal, I think he's won the James Beard Award, has been nominated. He imported some tortilla presses from Mexico City, and so they do fresh handmade tortillas. They do carnitas. They do smoked ribs. They do a lot of stuff, and it's just next level. It's just next level. I feel like Chattanooga embraces that a lot.
Yeah, cool. So we'll get that list and link it into the notes and share it out there with our audience so people can get the complete details. But I want to get the complete details about Andre James now. And you mentioned you're in Myrtle Beach and you're all over the place, it seems like. What are you working on now?
Well, I just did my little, not claim to fame, but my little shtick I've been doing with like A through Z dishes in a certain city. I have one right here. This is the one I did for Chattanooga, for Chatter.
Right.
So every letter is a different dish at a different restaurant.
Okay.
So I just did one for Myrtle Beach that you could see on medium.com. I was going to go through a traditional news outlet or whatever, but I just got tired of waiting on publishers and waiting on editors and stuff. So I said, you know what? The people wanted it. Memorial Weekend was around that time.
Right.
So I said, let me get this out and let get the people what they want. So I just finished that up. It's exhausting, trying to find a letter for every
right, especially some letters over others, right?
Yeah. So it took me a while. I was stuck until I went to a German restaurant, and I was stuck on Z. I went to a German restaurant called Cafe Old Vienna, and they had Zigeuner Schnitzel. So I was like, oh, I'm done. We can
check the Z off the box. Well, how did you get into food journalism?
I got in through the kitchen, man. I was cooking. I was a line cook in Charleston. I was working at this back in 2017. I was working as a line cook at a food hall called Workshop in Charleston, and I I was just with some amazing chefs, David Schuttenberg and Tai Fee and Cynthia Wong, who made, I don't know if you've seen that not fried chicken ice cream. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
It's ice cream, but it looks like chicken. It comes in a bucket. But I was around all those people that was doing all that kind of crazy stuff in Charleston. And so I pitched the idea to interview some of them for a column for the Alt Weekly in Charleston called the Charleston City Paper. So I had a crazy column, and I had a weekly column in Charleston, and I interviewed all my chef friends. You know, I was cooking with these guys on a daily and ladies on a daily basis. So I just started interviewing them, and it kind of went from there, really, because I had the access to them. A lot of food writers don't. A lot of cooks and chefs don't like food writers and food journalists.
Okay.
You know, they're like, they feel like they're not one of them, you know.
Right.
But I was already in kitchens with them, you know, getting grease burns and getting cut and, you know, hanging out at night after shifts and stuff. So they trusted me. And so that kind of sparked my, my journey into the, the food and beverage and the writing part of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure the writing part definitely benefits from the experience you've had. You know a little bit better about what questions to ask, some of the challenges they've gone through, and those types of things. Now, you mentioned your A to Z guides, and I know I saw one for Charlotte as well as Myrtle Beach, and you mentioned a couple others. What are some of the favorite assignments that you've had in barbecue and in other food genres beyond that A to Z list?
With barbecue, probably we did something with Little Pigs, which is in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
People don't talk enough about Little Pigs barbecue. It's right there on Frontage Road. People don't talk enough about Little Pigs, but it's been there forever. And restaurants don't last long. And if you've been in the place over 10 years, 15 years, you're doing something right, you know. So Little Pigs barbecue is good. It's more of a PD style.
Right.
And then they got the Carolina Gold sauce. That was my first time actually at Little Pigs. Is my first time having Carolina Gold sauce. I didn't even know what it was until I went to Little Pigs out here in Myrtle Beach. Okay. But this doing something on them because Myrtle Beach doesn't get a lot of press for their barbecue scene, you know. So, you know, doing that for the Myrtle Beach area, that was pretty fun for sure.
Now, again, I know you've been a few different places, whether that's by design or by interest. There's been a lot of traveling, and if you're going to see all these restaurants, you got to kind of get around a good bit. So how do you feel like travel and what you're doing in food journalism are connected or intertwined?
I mean, I just feel like there's so much out there. When I grew up in Southport, and when I grew up, there was probably 2,000 people in the city. So I was like, I got to get away. You know, as soon as I graduated high school, my dad's aunt, who was living in New York, was coming down to visit. And I got in that van with her. I said, "You going back to New York next week?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm going back next week." I got in that van with her and I went to New York, man. And that opened up a whole world to me, you know, as far as seeing stuff outside of where I'm from, you know. So that kind of started the bug of me just being a transplant. Me moving here, almost like a vagabond, almost. You know, I've lived in 5 cities in 5 years at one point.
Wow.
Yeah. So
do you feel like that inspires what you're doing in your writing in any way?
Yeah, definitely, because you're always going to meet people doing things different ways. Just like right now here in Myrtle Beach, everybody claims that they know somebody that makes the best chicken bog. And if you go to New Orleans, it's the same thing with jambalaya or gumbo, you know. And then if you go to Chattanooga, everybody has the chopped wiener plate. You know, then if you go up to Wilmington, everybody has the best crab dip. You go to Maryland, Baltimore, everybody got the best crab cake. So it's just like I just love this, you know, being on those highways and byways and this checking out different food cultures and different food ways.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're obviously an expert in a lot of different places and the type of different food you can get there. But when you're out there and you visit a new place, where do you turn for food advice?
I go to the barbershops.
Okay.
I try to find a little convenience store, mostly for whatever reason in unsavory parts of towns that I shouldn't be in at nighttime. But at a convenience, where you get that plate from? Where you get the barbecue from? You know, whatever. I definitely don't go on TikTok. I try to just rely on locals. Just meet I talk to everybody. You know, I'm pretty social. So this getting with locals, getting with people that's been there forever. You know, I wrote in the piece for the top 10 Chattanooga barbecue places. When I first started, I was blessed enough to sit beside a guy at the Chattanooga Times Street Press named Ben Benton.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows more about the 423 than any. He could write a book about it. He had the leather eye patch, and but he knows everything about everything. And
right,
I just asked him questions day in, day out, and he was just happy. He was just happy and gracious enough to give me the scoop on everything. Same thing with Steve Ray. Without Steve Ray, he helped me. I call him Barbecue Yoda. You know, he helped me tremendously with this navigating Chattanooga's food scene. You know, especially barbecue wise. He knows everybody. Pat Rowe's the same way. A guy named Pat Rowe in Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a barbecue catering business, and he also runs the food incubator there in Chattanooga. So just getting with people that just know their stuff, man. Doing a little bit of research, and also just meeting people randomly that'll take me to some places, you know, around town.
Wow, what a novel idea in 2025. You know, it's not all in the internet or in our phone. We go out and actually talk face to face with a person, go to those community gathering spots and talk to people. Wow.
Yeah.
What an idea.
Crash somebody's cookout, man. Go to a cookout, go to a park.
You always bring something with you.
Yeah. Bring a case of beer or some ice or something or some sodas. But just meet people and I come from an era where you had to talk to people. You know, you couldn't text nobody and all this other stuff. So I still have that in me, and I still use that whenever I'm in any city I'm in. I'm going to find the good food. You know, just a thing.
Yeah. Well, so as you're done the writing and the travel from city to city, what do you feel like your biggest foodie goal that you've achieved has been, or maybe one that you've still got in progress?
My biggest foodie goal probably was becoming friends with Cynthia Greenlee. She's my favorite food journalist. I think she won a James Beard Award for the story she did on Vice on how women back in the day were weaponized hot pots of grits. So this
Green knows about that, right?
Getting to know Cynthia Greenlee was one of my foodie things. And then, strangely enough, eating scrap plates with John T. Edge on Dodson Avenue in Chattanooga.
All right.
You know, he was the head of the Southern Foodways Alliance and everything. Probably the biggest Southern food pundit that I know. He wrote Pot Liquor Papers, which is one of my favorite all-time books about food. And just meeting him, he called me. And he was like, "I'm in Chattanooga. Let's link up." And we were in Chattanooga, and we in scrap plates. And scrap plates are another thing that I've never seen outside of Chattanooga.
All right, tell us what it is.
Is this the gristle? Is the end cuts? Is the scraps of the ribs?
Okay.
And they cook them down again, and they barbecue them again, and they serve them as plates.
So Chattanooga's version of burn ends.
Yeah, they call it a scrap plate. Master Blasters, which was a legendary Chattanooga spot, they had a scrap plate. And then also Wright's Barbecue. You can go to Wright's Barbecue right now in Chattanooga and get a scrap plate. So just hanging with John T. Edge, eating a scrap plate, I was like, dang, this is crazy.
Yeah,
I was watching him on TV, you know.
Right, a celebrity, personality in the food world. So we talked a lot about the Chattanooga barbecue, and again, I know you're from down east in North Carolina, the furthest point east, one of them anyway. Let's talk about Carolina barbecue. So, what are your favorite spots in the Tar Heel State? First of all,
Grady's.
Okay.
Grady's, I got to get some T-shirts from Grady's. Last time I went, they didn't have any T-shirts. Definitely Grady's. Of course, Skylight Inn. You know, all the big boys. You know, all the big Bees out there in Greenville.
Right.
What's the one in Goldsboro? My dad's girlfriend was from Goldsboro. She used to have us at I think Wilbur's.
Wilbur's, right, in Goldsboro.
Yep. So
a lot of those guys recently in the North Carolina Barbecue Hall of Fame.
Yep. So those are some of my go-to places. And also, like I said, Jackson's Big Oak. This is the place I was. When I close my eyes and think about barbecue, in my introduction to barbecue, with Jackson's Big Oak Barbecue on Kerr Avenue in Wilmington. my dad and my uncle worked at Skinner and Daniels barbecue back in the early 80s and 90s.
Okay.
In Wilmington, but they ended up closing down, and a family from Skinner and Daniels opened up Jackson's Big Oak Barbecue. So,
now, all those places you mentioned, they're down east. Don't you get to the west half up towards Lexington or Piedmont, or you just no chance?
No, I'm always I got family in Charlotte. A lot of my cousins from New York moved to Charlotte, and so I'm always in Charlotte. But when I get to Charlotte, I'm always at some food hall or eating something totally different, and I never really get a chance to really just focus on barbecue when I'm in Charlotte. But I have to though. I have to.
Yeah, well, let's encourage you. That part could be another good A to Z list for you there.
Okay, so what are some places that I need to try in that region?
Oh, in Charlotte, definitely you got to see our boy Sweet Lou's Barbecue does a great job. Gosh, if you hadn't, Noble Smoke is another good one. I love that Optimus Food Hall. Noble Smoke's got a spot in there.
Okay. See, I'm always
Max Speed Shop's 25th anniversary this year, so they got a lot of fun around that. Good stuff. And Midwood Smokehouse does pretty good, but all of them, I think Sweet Lou's our guy.
Got you. And that's outside. That's a little outside. That's like, is that in Peachland? Where's that at?
It's in the Belmont neighborhood, just sort of in the eastern part of Charlotte there. Yeah. But if you're going to Peachland, that's John G's, and it's a little bit outside of Charlotte, but you got to check him out.
Yeah, I used to drive through there going back to North Carolina, going back to Wilmington from Charlotte. We got to go through Peachland and Wadesboro and all that.
Right. Yep.
Actually been to a Max Speed shop. They had one in Wilmington. Me and my dad ate at the Max Speed shop in Wilmington. There was they put it in the old TGI Friday building. So
we talked about the Northern Carolina, and let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the South, whether it's in Columbia or Myrtle Beach. Have you got a favorite in South Carolina?
Like I said, Little Pigs.
Okay.
There's a place in North Myrtle Beach going towards Cherry Grove and all that area called Brisket. People swear by that place. And then also a place that I knew the guy that ran the smokehouse there, and he's from Austin. He's from Austin he's from somewhere in Texas. John Lewis Barbecue in Charleston.
Yeah.
Lewis Barbecue, man, they do it. That was my first time having brisket, and that was 2017. Never had nothing like it in my life. And then the hot guts, and then they do the pinto. Because I feel like barbecue is good. The sides make the barbecue as well.
Sure.
They have their place with it. So definitely Lewis Barbecue. Definitely him out there Hemingway, Scott's Barbecue.
Right.
They're still doing their thing. So definitely those places right there for sure.
Yeah, well, let's add a couple to your list there. Check out City Limits in West Columbia and Palmyra down in Charleston in the West Ashley neighborhood. Check out Palmyra if you don't know him yet.
I seen some of his stuff, man. Those beef cheeks and everything.
Right.
I like what people are doing with alternative cuts.
And the beef cheeks are one, and they're really catching on in Texas too. You mentioned that earlier about it being a big brisket town. Well, lately it seems like beef cheeks are having a resurgence there.
Yeah, I love it because the whole animal has to get, whether it's a hog, whether it's a cow, the whole animal has to get used. So I love those kind of throwaway cuts of meat. That let me know you can cook when you can make all that stuff taste good.
Absolutely. Sure. As we wind our conversation down here with Andre James, tell me what keeps your food journalism fire burning?
Just being curious, and of course, just being hungry. But just being curious, and just I think in food media right now, there's so much parody. Because everybody's doing food reviews in their car and all that stuff now. And they got the Ring cameras set up and they doing their thing. Just to do something kind of what I'm doing kind of seems antiquated at this point. But people are still receptive to it. People still love it. So that's what keeps me going. Just feel like I'm a last of a dying breed of traditional writers that really have composition books and all that type of stuff. So that's kind of what keeps me going in this uncovering stories that a lot of people on social media don't have really time to. At its core, good food writing is cultural anthropology to me. It's all cultural anthropology at the end of the day. Good food writing is the backstories, why did we eat this? Well, how did we start eating this? So that's what keeps me going at the end of the day.
And that, my friends, is the final word from Andre James, food adventurer and writer. Andre, thanks so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it, man. Anytime, man, I want to come back.
We'll do it, and check us out when you come up to Charlotte or Hickory. We'll show you to some good barbecue.
All right, we'll do.
You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast stream. Share our podcast with your food-loving friends, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. That's where you can see all the photos and videos of our barbecue adventures and interviews. Don't forget, when you visit lowslowbbqshow.com, you can sign up for our newsletter. You'll get the latest barbecue news delivered to your inbox on Tuesday mornings, maybe a few links from Andre James along the way. And thanks again to our guest, Andre, and thanks as well to the whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts, especially our producer, Andrew Moose. Finally, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.